What if the biggest sign that you're intelligent is the fact that you've never believed you were? Psychology has uncovered a surprising truth. Many highly intelligent people don't walk around feeling brilliant. They often feel misunderstood, exhausted, and strangely out of place. The habits they criticize in themselves are often the very things that reveal a powerful mind. So before you dismiss yourself as just average, stay until the end. You may recognize parts of yourself that you've never had words for. Have you ever been in a conversation where everyone seemed satisfied with the answer, but something inside you wasn't? Or walked into a room and instantly sensed tension that no one else appeared to notice? Maybe you've spent years believing you simply think too much, feel too deeply, or struggle to fit in. But modern psychology suggests another possibility. Intelligence isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with perfect grades, endless confidence, or impressive vocabulary. In fact, some of the brightest minds constantly underestimate themselves because their brains naturally focus on what they don't know instead of what they already understand. Researchers have found that intelligence is often expressed through patterns of thinking rather than obvious achievements. The way you process information, question assumptions, notice details, and connect ideas can reveal far more than an IQ score ever could. Today, we'll explore 7 psychological signs that may suggest your mind works differently from most people around you. These aren't personality quirks or internet myths. They're patterns supported by psychological research and cognitive science. And the final sign might explain why you've spent years hiding your true potential without even realizing it. Let's begin. Sign 1. You often feel like you don't quite belong. Have you ever been surrounded by people, yet still felt strangely alone? Not because anyone excluded you, but because your mind seemed to be experiencing a completely different version of the same moment. While everyone else enjoys casual conversation, your brain is already wondering why people behave the way they do, what they're really feeling, or how one small interaction connects to something much bigger. Instead of simply participating, you find yourself observing. You notice patterns. You notice contradictions. You notice things most people walk right past. Psychologists studying gifted individuals have long observed that highly intelligent people often experience what is called intellectual overexcitability. Their minds process information with unusual depth and intensity. Instead of accepting information at face value, their brains automatically compare, analyze, question, and connect ideas. This constant mental activity can create an unexpected side effect: feeling different, not superior, different. It's like watching a movie in ultra-high definition while everyone else is watching the standard version. You're seeing extra details that aren't obvious to most people. That doesn't make your experience better. It simply makes it harder to explain. Many intelligent people mistakenly believe this feeling means something is wrong with them. In reality, it may simply mean your brain naturally processes life on a deeper level. Sometimes the loneliness isn't caused by a lack of people. It's caused by a lack of people who think in similar ways. Sign 2. Social situations drain you faster than everyone else. Have you ever left a gathering completely exhausted while everyone else seemed ready for another round? Maybe after an hour of conversation you feel mentally drained. Meanwhile, your friends appear energized. It's easy to assume you're shy, weak, or antisocial, but psychology offers another explanation. Every conversation contains far more information than words alone. There's tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, hidden emotions, unspoken intentions, past experiences, future predictions. For many people, these signals stay mostly in the background. For highly analytical minds, they become impossible to ignore. Without realizing it, your brain is constantly processing layer after layer of information. You're not just listening to what someone says, you're comparing it with what they said last month. You're noticing whether their smile reaches their eyes. You're predicting where the conversation might lead. You're solving dozens of invisible puzzles every minute. All of that consumes mental energy. Cognitive load theory explains that every brain has limited processing capacity. The difference is that some brains naturally perform far more processing during the exact same experience. So when you finally need silence, it's not because you're fragile. It's because your mental resources have been working overtime. Rest isn't laziness. For an active mind, it's maintenance. The more deeply your brain processes the world, the more recovery it requires afterward. Sign 3. Easy answers never feel good enough. Have you noticed that you rarely accept the first explanation you're given? Someone answers your question. Everyone else nods, but something inside you keeps whispering, that can't be the whole story. So you ask another question, then another, not because you're trying to challenge anyone, because you're genuinely trying to understand. This trait is known in psychology as need for cognition. It describes people who genuinely enjoy complex thinking and naturally seek deeper understanding instead of simple conclusions. These individuals don't think because they have to. They think because their minds refuse to stop. Surface-level explanations create an uncomfortable feeling, almost like reading the first chapter of a mystery novel and never finding out how it ends. Your brain wants the missing pieces. It wants the complete picture. Research has shown that people with a high need for cognition evaluate evidence more carefully, resist weak arguments, and spend more time examining different possibilities before reaching conclusions. Unfortunately, this often creates misunderstandings. Some people interpret your curiosity as criticism. Others assume you're overthinking. But asking deeper questions isn't a weakness. It's one of the strongest signs of intellectual curiosity. The world often rewards quick answers. Intelligent minds are usually more interested in accurate ones. Because the goal isn't to sound smart. The goal is to understand what's actually true. And those two things are very different. So far, we've explored 3 signs that many intelligent people quietly carry every day. But the next 2 signs become even more personal. They explain why some people feel guilty for noticing what others miss, and why many intelligent adults have felt emotionally older than their age since childhood. Those 2 signs might be the most revealing of all. Before we continue, take a second to think about the signs we've covered so far. Have you recognized yourself in one or all of them? If you have, you're not alone. Many people spend years believing these traits are weaknesses when they may actually be evidence of a mind that processes the world differently. Now let's look at 2 signs that are even more personal. Sign 4. You notice things other people completely miss. Have you ever sensed that someone was upset even while they insisted they were fine? Or noticed a tiny hesitation in someone's voice that completely changed the meaning of what they were saying? Maybe you've walked into a room and immediately felt that something wasn't right, even though nobody said a word. Most people focus on what's obvious. Highly perceptive minds often notice what happens underneath the surface. Psychologists call this advanced pattern recognition. Your brain is constantly connecting small pieces of information that seem unrelated on their own. A brief facial expression, a slight pause before answering, a change in body language, an unusual choice of words. Individually, these details mean very little. Together, they tell a story. That's why you sometimes predict situations before they happen. You notice relationship problems before anyone announces them. You recognize dishonesty long before evidence appears. You can often tell when someone is struggling emotionally, even if they're smiling. But here's the part people rarely talk about. Instead of feeling powerful because of this ability, you often feel guilty. You wonder whether you're reading too much into things. You worry that you've misunderstood someone. Or you feel uncomfortable because you've seen behind a mask they were trying so hard to keep in place. That emotional conflict happens because perception and empathy often grow together. You don't just recognize another person's emotions, you feel the weight of them. And carrying other people's unspoken pain can become emotionally exhausting. This isn't judgment. Judgment creates distance. Empathy creates responsibility. That's why many intelligent people silently carry emotional burdens that nobody else even notices. If you've ever wished you could stop noticing everything, it's probably because your brain has never had an off switch. Sign 5. You've always felt older than your age. Think back to your childhood. Were you the kid who preferred talking with adults? Did teachers describe you as mature for your age? Maybe people called you an old soul. At the time, it sounded like a compliment. But psychology suggests there may have been much more happening beneath the surface. Researchers who study gifted children often describe something called asynchronous development. It means different parts of your development grow at different speeds. Your thinking matures much faster than your emotional experience. As a child, your mind could understand ideas that your heart wasn't yet ready to carry. You started asking questions about life, about death, about fairness, about human behavior, long before most children even considered them. While others focused on games, you sometimes found yourself thinking about problems that adults struggle to answer. No one teaches a child how to carry questions that big. So many intelligent children quietly learn to carry them alone. Years later, those same people often become adults who feel mentally exhausted without understanding why. Not because life is necessarily harder, but because they've been processing life's complexity for much longer than everyone else. Imagine 2 people running the same marathon. One started 5 miles earlier. Of course, they'll feel more tired by the finish line. That doesn't mean they're weaker. It means they've been carrying the load longer. Psychologist Letta Hollingworth, one of the pioneers in gifted education, observed that highly intelligent children often became aware of life's biggest questions at a much younger age than their peers. That early awareness can shape an entire lifetime. It creates wisdom, but it can also create emotional fatigue. If you've ever felt strangely older than your actual age, or carried responsibilities that didn't seem to belong to a child, don't mistake that exhaustion for failure. Sometimes it's simply the cost of seeing the world earlier and more deeply than those around you. We've now uncovered 5 signs of an unusually intelligent mind, but the final 2 are the most powerful. 1 explains why intelligent people are often the least certain people in the room, and the last one may reveal the hidden fear that's been holding you back from becoming everything you're capable of. Let's finish with the 2 signs that change everything. We've reached the final 2 signs, and if you've related to the first 5, these next ones may explain something you've struggled to understand for years. Because the greatest challenge of an intelligent mind often isn't learning more, it's learning how to live with the way it thinks. Sign 6. You can see more than one side of the same story. Have you ever argued with someone and secretly understood why they believed what they believed? Have you ever disagreed with a person while still recognizing that some of their points were valid? Many people see the world in simple categories: right or wrong, good or bad, success or failure. But highly intelligent minds rarely experience reality that way. Instead of looking for certainty, they look for understanding. Psychologists refer to this as cognitive complexity, the ability to hold multiple perspectives without rushing toward a simple conclusion. Imagine someone betrays your trust. Most people immediately decide they're a terrible person, but your mind keeps asking questions. What happened in their past? What fear influenced their decision? Can someone make a harmful choice without being completely bad? None of these questions excuse the behavior. They simply create a fuller picture. The same thing happens in politics, relationships, science, and everyday conversations. You naturally search for context before judgment. Unfortunately, this can make you appear indecisive. People may tell you to pick a side. But intelligence isn't about choosing sides as quickly as possible. It's about understanding reality as completely as possible. Research on adult cognitive development shows that the most mature thinkers tolerate uncertainty better than others. They accept that 2 opposing ideas can both contain elements of truth. That's uncomfortable. Our brains love certainty because certainty feels safe, but reality is rarely simple. The smartest people aren't always the ones with the fastest answers. They're often the ones willing to remain curious long enough to discover better ones. If you've ever felt frustrated because life seems more complicated to you than it does to everyone else, it may be because your brain refuses to settle for incomplete explanations. And while that makes life harder, it also makes your understanding far richer. Sign 7. You're more afraid of your potential than your failure. Now we arrive at the final sign, and for many people, this is the hardest one to admit. Deep down, do you believe you're capable of much more than you're currently doing? Not because you're arrogant, not because you think you're better than others, but because every now and then you catch a glimpse of what you could become. Maybe you've produced work that surprised even you. Maybe someone you deeply respected praised your ability. Maybe there were moments when everything clicked and you realized you were operating far below your true capacity. Then something strange happened. You slowed down. You postponed the project. You avoided the opportunity. You convinced yourself the timing wasn't right. Psychologist Abraham Maslow described this as the Jonah complex. It's the fear of our own greatness. Most people think they're afraid of failure, but sometimes the greater fear is success, because success changes everything. If you truly commit, people will expect more from you. You'll become more visible, more vulnerable. There will be nowhere left to hide. As long as you never fully try, you can always tell yourself, I probably could have done it if I'd really wanted to. That thought feels safe, but it also keeps your potential locked away. Highly intelligent people often experience this fear more intensely because they can clearly imagine both the rewards and the enormous responsibility that comes with achieving them. Their imagination doesn't only visualize success, it also visualizes every possible obstacle, every criticism, every risk, every sacrifice. Sometimes that awareness becomes paralysis. The tragedy isn't a lack of ability, it's waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. Here's something worth remembering. Your potential doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It waits, quietly, patiently. But every year you postpone becoming who you're capable of being. That quiet voice grows harder to silence. The question isn't whether you're intelligent enough. The question is whether you're willing to stop hiding from the life your own mind already knows you're capable of creating. Final thoughts. If these 7 signs felt strangely familiar, don't rush to label yourself as gifted or exceptional. Psychology doesn't work that way. These signs aren't a diagnosis. They're patterns that often appear in people who process the world with unusual depth, curiosity, and awareness. Real intelligence isn't measured by how loudly someone speaks. It's revealed by how they think, by the questions they ask, by their willingness to change their mind when new evidence appears, by their ability to notice what others overlook, and perhaps most importantly, by recognizing how much they still have left to learn. Ironically, that's why many intelligent people underestimate themselves. The more they learn, the more they realize how vast human knowledge truly is. Meanwhile, those who know the least often feel the most certain. So if you've spent years believing you think too much, feel too deeply, or don't quite fit into the world around you, maybe those aren't flaws after all. Maybe they're signs of a mind that's been trying to understand life at a deeper level all along. And perhaps the greatest mistake you've ever made was assuming your differences were weaknesses, because they may be the very qualities that make you capable of seeing possibilities others never notice. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, let me know in the comments which sign described you the most. I read as many comments as I can, and I'd love to hear your experience. If you enjoy psychology, self-awareness, and understanding how the human mind really works, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching, and remember, never underestimate yourself simply because your mind works differently. Sometimes, the people who doubt themselves the most are the very ones capable of changing the world.